Bonjour. Bonjour les amis. Bonjour. This is Véro. I've just embarked on a surprise day trip, I should say a field trip, on Mother's Day, the French Mother's Day, in one of the beautiful cities in this region, in the beautiful Touraine where I live now, and the city is Amboise. I know a lot of my Australian friends and Kiwi friends and maybe some European friends will be here at this time. It's almost noon in France, almost lunchtime. Welcome. I have friends in Australia who are feeling a little low because of the recent news that the virus had spiked up again in the Melbourne area. And so I hope they're watching now because I'm also doing this to cheer them up. Hang in there, friends. So I am in the beautiful city of Amboise, as I just mentioned. A 20-minute train ride from Tours, where I am based now. So easy to come here. Then a 10-minute walk between the train station to the downtown area. Amboise has a beautiful chateau, a gorgeous chateau, and everybody's been there. A lot of people have been there, but also a Sunday market. I must say it's quite large. I just went there and it was packed. I got there after 11. It was so crowded with locals as well as many tourists, French tourists in fact. So I tried filming from the market. I don't think the footage was that good because it was so crowded. And I'm not sure it uploaded, so I don't think you'll get to see that. I'm sorry. So what I'm doing now is I just walked past the TI, the tourist office where I started this stroll. And what I'm doing is walking towards the center of town where I will leave you, but then I'll pop back in later today, and when I see interesting things, I will show them to you. Bonjour friends, welcome. This is Véro. We are strolling in the beautiful Touraine region, the Val de Loire, or the Loire Valley if you prefer. And I hopped on a train and after 20 minutes left Tours and arrived here in the beautiful city of Amboise. We are in La Rue Nationale. La Rue Nationale, the national road. Isn't it funny? Yesterday we were in Tours and I took you on a stroll, which you can find on YouTube. And we also strolled along une Rue Nationale, a national road. Well, Amboise has one too. And it's actually a street that played a big part in the city historically. It was one of the major entrances in town. Oh, I'm sorry, it's so hot where you are. Right here, it's probably in the, I'd say, high 60s, low 70s today. The sun's back. It's quite nice. And so this is a special stroll for me because when I toured with Rick Steves Europe in 2019, I came to Amboise about 5 or 6 times during the season. It was a very popular town on our tours, and so I haven't been back for 18 months, and I was very curious to see how Amboise had weathered the storm and if a lot of the little shops and businesses I used to know are still here. And this is why I came over today. So you can see La Rue Nationale is very peaceful. And you have quite a few shops open for a Sunday morning. But I don't know if I mentioned that, but I did see quite a lot of tourists in town, and they're all French tourists, which is interesting. So we are heading towards the heart of town, towards that big street by the chateau, where all the restaurants, or a lot of restaurants, are lined up. I suspect this town is about to get a lot busier when tourism picks up in a few weeks. Look at the size of this little street. So this won't be a very long one. I just want to show you a few things. And I'll do that all day. I'll pop in whenever I see something worth sharing. So if you'd like to travel to the Loire Valley today, make sure to check this page, this community, on and off. The street gets busier as you get closer to the center of town, which makes sense. But the market, folks, was so crowded. I didn't feel comfortable staying there, actually. And I was a little surprised there wasn't more food there. A lot of the stalls were clothing and housewares and accessories and crafts. This is the other section of the street. And look at the beautiful clock tower. This is what's left of a wall that's used to surround the city in the 15th century. We're going to walk right under it if you've never come to Amboise before. If people let me cross the street. And voila. So you do get those outside Paris vibes here. La Province, as we call it. Province. It's kind of it's nice to see it like this. I know it will get very busy soon. I've seen a lot of bicycles parked, so people do tour this region by bike a lot. Or car, or like I did today, they hop on a train. Fairly easy to get here. We are standing at the foot of the clock tower. As I recall, there's a restroom in there, which came in very handy when we toured with tour members. I did not make a reservation for lunch, so it might prove a little difficult for me to eat at a couple of my favorite restaurants, but that's okay. I'll just be flexible and go with the flow. Here is the entrance to the restroom, so yes, it's still here. Always handy, always handy. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? If you've just joined, we are strolling in the beautiful city of Amboise in the Loire Valley. Remember to pronounce the S in Amboise. There is an E at the end, so you have to say Amboise, not Amboise. So my plan is to maybe return to the chateau. It's been a while. It's been at least a couple years, so I'd love to see the chateau again. I did get a ticket. I booked online. I will not go see Leonardo da Vinci's home. You may know he finished his life here. He ended his life here in a beautiful home that sits up the street, but I might not do that today. Here is a local institution, Bigot. It's a tea room, salon de thé. It's also a pastry shop, and they serve lunch items, salads, quiches, and things like that. A very big name in town. Always a good option. And here is the busy street in town. It's lined with restaurants, and above us stands the magnificent chateau that was once a royal residence. A lot of kings, French kings in the high Middle Ages and during the Renaissance favored different types of different chateaux in the Loire. A king named Charles VIII made Amboise a royal city. And this chapel you see up there is where Leonardo da Vinci was buried eventually, or so the legend says. So when you visit the chateau, the entrance is right behind those trees. You gotta climb up a little bit and go in there that way, as I recall. And then you can visit the chateau and the chapel. And then Leonardo da Vinci's house is about a 10-minute walk up this big street. I'm just going to show you what the lunch options are, and then I'll wrap up so I can go have lunch before the crowd gets here. You have your usual chains, Amorino ice cream, but it's closed. And then you have a bunch of restaurants. You can see the terraces have sprawled out on the other side too, because that's the only way they can work right now. They're not allowed to serve inside. We discussed this on the Stroll yesterday. I'm trying to remember, there was a restaurant I really enjoyed whenever I was in town with tour members, and I hope I remember which one it was. The Vinci. Now, this is a nice view of the chapel. See how it sits right there on the edge? And then you see the walls, the chateau walls. The best way to see the chateau is to stand by the river and look back. I'll make sure to do that before I leave. Pause Café. Some things are closed. There are good restaurants too. If you leave this main street and just go to the side streets, you can find some good restaurants. In fact, the Rick Steves guidebook has quite a few suggestions. This Paul is fairly new because it opened, I remember, right at the end of the 2019 touring season. Paul is a bakery chain, boulangerie bakery chain that also serves as a restaurant that was born in northern France, and you see them everywhere, also in train stations, and they do deliver. I mean, it's pretty decent food, though it's more industrial than some people would care for. L'Atelier is the restaurant we just passed. You see, you can do your apéro here. They have wine by the glass, vin au verre. They have charcuterie, fromage, some beer, bière pression, cold drinks, and then the ubiquitous planche. Planche is what they serve for apéro. It's a board, and you see that in all French cities now. So it comes with charcuterie or cheese or both. And there's enough for 1 or 2 or 3 people, depending on the size. You can see examples here, the charcuterie, the cheese, the mixed, which has both. And of course, they feature heavily local cheese, like the Celles-sur-Cher goat cheese, the Sainte-Maure de Touraine goat cheese, and other specialties. So this could be a good place for late afternoon, like an apéro. It's called L'Atelier. I was afraid of that. Chez Bruno would have been my number one choice, but it's closed. This is a really good restaurant. It's just probably because it's Sunday. I love this old sign outside this house. It's pretty, isn't it? So I guess I'll have to figure out a plan for drinks and see how you walk here and you have this wall right above you. And look at the chapel. Right above my head. Isn't that great? This big tower is quite impressive, and the reason it's so big is that they, as I recall, they designed it so people did not have to dismount their horses to go up to the chateau. So they would enter down here, and it goes swerving, but it's so wide that horses could just climb it all the way to the top. That's why it's so big. Here's a creperie. Well, maybe I'll try a different restaurant today. I tended to always go to the same ones because I like them, but sometimes you just have to try. Here we have l'épicerie. You can see they have prefix meals at $24.70 and $33.90. Prefix is when you get to selected options. And they have la cave for the wines. Pardon, je vous coupe la vue. So this is called l'épicerie, and I know it comes highly recommended, so maybe I'll try that today. There was one in a side street too where I once enjoyed a nice meal with a tour guide friend, if I could recall where it was, down there somewhere. Look at those streets, it's so pretty. It's like the town's waking up. It's Sunday, so not everything is open. La Florentine is the name of this restaurant. But overall, all the restaurants that have space to have a terrace reopened last week on May 19th. They can now serve as long as they space out tables, and you can see that a lot of them are doing it. And the reason they're not is because it's Sunday. So some of them decide not to work on Sunday. I'm going to wrap up at the street corner here because I'll need to go back. So if you follow this little street over there for about 10 minutes, you would reach the Clos Lucé, which is the beautiful home and gardens where Leonardo da Vinci spent the last 3 years of his life after he was invited by Francis I, the French king during the Renaissance. And La Cave here is a really nice place if you want to taste wine. So you can come here and they have a very good deal where you can, it's very affordable and you can sample some local wines. You see the sign here, it tells you that Le Clos Lucé is up the street like I just mentioned. So I'll probably walk up there this afternoon. And here is the entrance of that big tower I just mentioned, or the exit rather, because I think that's where you exit the chateau. A big tower that horses used to be able to climb. All right, so thanks for joining me. I am going to go have lunch and I will see you again a little later today. Hopefully. À bientôt.